All right, let's get right into it. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are looking at a highly anticipated paper out of Archive that has the AI research community absolutely buzzing right now. The paper is called Orca, The World is in Your Mind. It's presented by lead author Yiha Wang, alongside this massive team of 56 other researchers. And look, we need to dive deep into this today, because what they're proposing isn't just some incremental fine-tuning update, it is an initial instantiation of a general world foundation model. They're actually challenging the very bedrock of how we train our systems to understand reality.
And the whole thing really kicks off with this one fundamental question. What happens when we stop predicting the next token and start predicting the next state? Now, if you're an AI researcher or a developer, you know full well that our current state-of-the-art models are deeply entrenched in isolated prediction loops. But Orca? Orca asks us to rethink that entire standard approach. I mean, what if, instead of just guessing the next word in a sequence or the next pixel in a video frame, a model could actually predict the structural transition of the world itself?
So, here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the next token bottleneck, then look at entering next state prediction. After that, we'll cover unconscious versus conscious learning, move on to validating the latent space, and wrap up with beyond specialized baselines.
Okay, Section 1. The next token bottleneck. So currently, we operate on isolated prediction, right? Language models are heavily optimized for next token prediction, vision models for next frame prediction, and robotics for next action prediction. And yes, they are powerful, absolutely, but they're completely siloed. They basically just learn these narrow slivers of reality. But then we have Orca's approach, which is next state prediction. This is unified state transition modeling. The crucial point here is that reality doesn't happen in isolated modalities. Think about it. When you drop a glass, you see it fall, you hear it shatter, and you can describe that event using words. Orca is actually designed to model the underlying state transition of the shattering glass itself, rather than just predicting the audio wave or the text description in isolation.
Moving on to Section 2. Entering next state prediction.
The answer to actually achieving this lies in this core concept, the unified world latent space. The authors define this as a singular latent representation that is learned from multimodal world signals. This is literally the mind of Orca. Instead of having this fragmented understanding where, text lives in one space and video lives in another, Orca ingests everything into one unified latent space. It essentially digests the physics, the geometry, and the semantics of the world down into a common denominator. And crucially, it exposes this understanding through multimodal readout interfaces, so it can take in a really complex world state and then spit out text, images, or physical actions based on that single, unified understanding.
Section 3. Unconscious versus conscious learning. To build this, the researchers divided the training into two complementary phases. The first is unconscious learning. This is the process of capturing dense, natural state transitions directly from continuous video data. Just think about how we learn as humans. A baby doesn't need a physics textbook to understand gravity, right? They just watch things fall over and over again. By absorbing massive amounts of raw, unannotated video, Orca implicitly learns the continuous, unspoken rules of physics, motion, and reality. It's essentially building an intuitive, unconscious grasp of how the physical world operates.
But intuition isn't really enough on its own. You also need explicit reasoning. So the second half of the paradigm is conscious learning. Here, the model learns sparse, meaningful state transitions using language-described events and VQA, or visual question answering, supervision. This is where semantics finally come in. The model learns to attach specific, high-level meaning to those raw physical transitions it learned unconsciously. So it learns that the visual transition of a hand pushing a door open corresponds to our human concept of opening. Put them together, and these two paradigms create a deeply comprehensive understanding of the world.
Now, to make this dual paradigm work, you need data. And I don't mean just a little bit of data. For the unconscious learning phase, the researchers put together a pre-training inventory containing 125,000 hours of continuous video data. To put that into perspective for a second, that is over 14 straight years of watching video non-stop. This staggering scale is what provides a remarkably dense playground for the model to actually learn the natural laws of state transitions.
And right alongside that, for the conscious learning phase, they utilized 160 million event annotations. That's 160 million discrete language-described events and VQA instances to ground those physical transitions into actual semantic meaning. This immense scale of world learning inventory is the fuel that makes the entire unified latent space possible.
Section 4. Validating the latent space. So how do we know it actually works? Well, they did it by introducing a really strict architectural constraint during evaluation. During the downstream evaluation phase, Orca's core backbone remains entirely frozen. Let me repeat that, entirely frozen. Only the lightweight, modality-specific decoders are trainable. Now, if you're an ML engineer, you know exactly why this is absolutely crucial. If they had allowed the backbone to fine-tune on downstream tasks, it would be pretty much impossible to tell if the model was succeeding because of the pre-trained latent space or just because it was memorizing the new task. By freezing the backbone, they proved that the knowledge of the world is inherently present in the latent space itself. The decoders are literally just translating that deep understanding into a specific format. To thoroughly test this out, they evaluated the frozen latent space using 3 representative downstream readouts. Step 1 was text generation. Can the model accurately describe the world's state? Step 2 was image prediction. Can it visually project the next state of the world? And step 3, which is perhaps the most complex, embodied action generation. Can it actually make decisions and act within an environment based on its unified understanding? Testing across these 3 entirely different modalities ensures the latent space is truly general and not just heavily biased towards text or video.
Section 5. Beyond specialized baselines.
When we actually compare Orca against specialized baselines, and by that I mean models heavily optimized for single tasks like pure text generation or pure image prediction, the data completely speaks for itself. Orca's scalable paradigm actively outperforms similar-sized, task-specific baselines across those downstream readouts. Because Orca possesses a stronger, unified world latent capability, it yields stronger readouts, even beating models that were custom-built to do only one specific thing. It's honestly a massive indication of the next state prediction hypothesis.
Now, maintaining strict academic rigor, the authors certainly don't claim this is the final perfect model. In fact, they deliberately dedicate a significant portion of their paper to addressing current limitations. They discuss areas where the conscious and unconscious learning phases can be further aligned and exactly where data scaling can be optimized. And they do this specifically to provide insights and inspiration for the research community. Orca is an initial instantiation. It's a blueprint for where the entire field can go next.
And that brings us to the final thought of this explainer. Looking at the sheer scale of the data, the elegance of that frozen backbone validation, and this massive shift from next token to next state prediction, we really have to ask the provocative question inspired by the paper's title. Is the world finally in our models' minds? Have we actually taken the first real step toward true world modeling? I highly encourage you to go read the full RZVIC preprint to dig into the technical architecture for yourself. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive into Orca, and keep exploring.